And let me mute all as well. Okay. So, good morning, everyone. And today, this week's Parsha is VaYigash, page 274 in the Eitz Chaim. It's chapter 44 of Genesis, beginning with verse 18. So whatever Chumash you have, just look for the portion VaYigash in table of contents. What I want to do today is read from the beginning of the portion. There's not much really to comment on, but then get to the Haftorah. It's a short Haftorah, and just look at the Haftarah and why the rabbis chose the Haftarah for this portion. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So what's great about these portions, among all the other portions in the Torah, is that during this story, the rabbis intentionally leave us hanging from one week to the next. And last week, the portion ended in that Joseph was going to take someone captive because he had told his servants to put a goblet in Benjamin's bag, and of course when they leave, Joseph sends someone after them. You stole something, and lo and behold, there's that goblet, and so now they're brought back, and that's how the portion ends. We don't know what's going to happen with them. And of course, the week before, Joseph was in jail, had just interpreted the dreams and of the cupbearer and the butler or the baker, and we don't know what's going to happen to Joseph. The dreams come true, and the cupbearer forgot Joseph. So so these portions make for great literature, but also the rabbis intentionally make for a great suspense from one week to the next. So now the portion begins. Again, we're on 274 in the Eitz Chaim. VaYigash elav Yehuda, Vayomer bi Adoni, Yedaber na avdecha davar, Ba'oznei Adoni, Va'al yichar apcha ba'avdecha ki chamocha kefaro. So Judah approached him, that is Joseph, and says, "Please, my Lord, may your servant please speak with some words in the ears of my Lord, and please don't be angry at your servant, because I know you are equal to Pharaoh." Okay, so he's being very obsequious. And the brothers do not know, Judah and his brothers do not know that this is Joseph, and just know that he's someone of high command in all of Egypt, and he's talking in a very subservient, very humble way to Joseph. 19. Adoni sha'al et avadav lemor hayesh lachem av o ach. My Lord has asked his servants, saying, do you have a father or brother? And Vanomer el Adoni yesh lanu av zaken, v'yeled zekunim katan, ve'achiv meit, vayivater hu levado le'imo, ve'aviv ahevo. And we said to my master, to my Lord, we have an elderly father and a young child of his old age, and his brother died, and he was left him alone to his mother, and his father loved him. So a cryptic way of saying, the family dynamics is such one of our father's wives was this young boy's mother, and that mother also had another brother who is dead. And so our father has loved him the most, this youngest brother. Or, yes, and 21, Vatomer el avadecha, horiduhu elai, va'asima eni alav. And you said to your servants, bring him to me, as so that I can put my eyes on him, that is the younger brother. Vanomer el Adoni, lo yuchal hana'ar la'azov et aviv, va'azav et aviv v'amet. And we said to my master, my Lord, the young boy cannot leave his father. If he leaves his father, he'll die. That is, the father will die. Vatomer el avadecha im lo yered achichem hakaton itchem lo tosifun lirot panai. And you said to your servants, if your brothers, if you do not bring your younger brother with you, you will not again see my face. Vayehi ki alinu el avdecha avi vanaged lo et divrei Adoni. And so we went up. This is the last time, right? When they got food the last time, and Joseph insisted that Shimon stayed behind as collateral, and they needed to bring the younger one back. So when we went up to your servant, my father, and we told him the words of my Lord, that is your words. Vayomer Avinu, Shuvu Shivru Lanu Ma'at Ochel. So our father said, go return and bring back some food. Vanomer Lo Nuchal Laredet Im Yesh Achinu Hakaton Itanu Aviyaradnu Ki Lo Nuchal Lirot Pnei Ha'ish V'Achinu Hakaton Einanu Itanu. And we said we can't go down unless our younger brother is with us to go down. And if we, because we wouldn't be able to see your face, and if our younger brother is not with us. Vayomer avdecha avi elenu, atem yadatem ki shtayim yalda li ishti. And your servant, my father, said to us, you know that my wife gave birth to two boys. Right? This is Judah recounting what Jacob said. And again, this whole idea of favoritism is a theme throughout these portions. And here, Jacob is saying to his sons, they are his sons. They are not the sons of Rachel, but they are the sons of Leah, Bilhah, and Zilpah, who Jacob did marry. So he's saying, you know that my wife gave birth to two boys. Yeah, well, you had other wives, Jacob. Why you persisting in this favoritism? Vayetzei ha'echad me'iti va'omar ach tarof taraf velo re'iti vadena. And one went away from me, and I said, he was ripped to shreds. Tarof taraf, he was torn by a beast, and I have not seen him since. Ulakachtem gam et zeh me'im panai v'karahu ason v'horadetem et sevati bera'ah she'ola. And if you take this one too from my face, from before me, and something might happen to him, something terrible might happen to him, and you will bring my hoary head, you will bring my old age with evil down to Sheol. So in the Torah and in the Bible, the talking about death is going down to Sheol. So we don't know that term. It's because the verb associated with it is going down, it's under the ground. So Sheol is under the ground. Is there a vision or a whole literature of what Sheol looked like? I have no idea. There is nothing about that in Jewish literature, in the Bible at all. Unlike the pyramids in Egypt, which have a whole story written out and illustrated in hieroglyphics about the netherworld and the travel that the body of the deceased entombed in the pyramid will take to the netherworld. There's no such thing that's left behind in the Torah or the Bible about such a journey or what that all is about. In rabbinic literature, we have a vision, and they've extensive body of work about what Olam Haba looks like, what the next world looks like, where the soul will go if it dies pure and righteous, and what God's heavenly court looks like. And there's also, the rabbis wrote, what limbo looks like if the soul dies with not being righteous and needs to atone for sins. And that's by us reciting Kaddish for deceased relatives. We help atone for the sins of the deceased, to get them out of limbo, to get the soul out of limbo and achieve its place in Olam Haba. And then there's Gehinom, also this netherworld, which you could associate with Christian view of hell, but it's not the same thing. There's no devil down there. It's just the alternative view, the mirror, not the mirror image of Olam Haba, God's heavenly court, but the negative image of that, the bad place. So there's lots in rabbinic literature about what happens after we die, but nothing in the Torah or the Bible about that, just the reference to Sheol. Okay? 30. Ve'ata kivoi el avdecha avi, ve'hana'ar enenu itanu, ve'nafsho kshura b'nafsho. And now, as I come to your servant, as I came to your servant, my father, and the lad was not with us, and his soul, his body is tied up with his body. Okay, nefesh in the Torah is body. His body is tied up with his body. So whatever happens to one happens to the other, as if they're Siamese twins, but even though they are two separate entities, whatever happens to one will happen to the other. 31. V'haya kir oto ki ein hana'ar v'met v'horidu avadecha et sevat avdecha avinu b'yagon she'ola. And if when he sees him that the boy will not be with him and he's died, he'll die, and your servants will be bringing his old head, his old-haired head, white-haired head of your servant, our father, in despair down to Sheol. Ki avdecha arav et hana'ar me'im avi lemor. Your servant, that is me, has pledged the boy from my father, saying, Imlo avienu elecha v'chatati la'avi kol hayamim. If I don't bring back to you, if I don't bring him back to you, that is, I don't bring Benjamin back to you, my father, I will be considered as if I have sinned to my father all my days. So meaning I'll put myself in a bad way with my father all of my days. Vata yeshevna avdecha tachat hana'ar. So now, please, let me sit instead. May I, your servant, sit instead of the boy, Eved la'adoni, as a servant to my Lord, v'hana'ar ya'al imechav, and let the boy go up with his brothers. Okay, so don't keep Benjamin. This is what will happen to my father if you keep Benjamin and we go back without him. Our father will die of despair. So please take me instead. 34. Ki ech ele el avi v'hana'ar enenu iti ken eva ra asher yimtzad avi. Because how can I go up to my father and the boy will not be with me, lest he sees lest I see the evil that will be in store, the bad, the woe that will be in store for my father. And please, I beg you, my Lord, don't do this to me and my father and my family. Okay, so that very passionate 16-sentence speech, 17-sentence speech is a classic in biblical literature, almost like a soliloquy in a Shakespearean play, right? What's at stake here? And now, how is the plot going to turn at this point? Is Joseph going to ignore his brother's plea? Is Joseph going to reveal his identity? Is Joseph going to give in to his brother's plea? What's at stake? That's the power of this speech. So 45, chapter 45, Velo yachol Yosef lihit apek lechol hanot nitzavim alav vayikra hotziu kol ish me'alai velo amad ishito behitvadah Yosef el echav. And Joseph couldn't contain himself anymore for all those who were standing with him or on him or serving him, his attendants serving him, and he called out to make all people go away from before him, and nobody stood with him as Joseph made himself known to his brothers. 2. Vayitain et kolo bivachi vayishmeu Mitzrayim vayishma beit Paro. And Joseph cried out, sobbing, and all of Egypt heard, and the house of Pharaoh heard. So, is that how loud the sobbing was, or was the news of the sobbing the news that all of Egypt heard and the house of Pharaoh heard? All right, whatever it was a significant event in that Joseph was sobbing at this point. 3, Vayomer Yosef el Echav, Ani Yosef, Ha'od Avichai, Velo Yachlu Echav La'anot Oto, Ki Nivhalu Mipanav. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? And his brothers could not answer him because they were dumbfounded in front of him. Yeah, Nivhalu. They were just like muted. They were just so they could not believe what just happened. Okay, so this is as much of this part of the portion I wanted to read, just to lay it out there. So the idea here that I've brought up in weeks past is, did this story really happen? I believe, in my reading of the Torah, no. I do not believe that this is history that we're reading. We're not reading what is supposedly an accurate account of real events that occurred. Okay, that's not how I read the Torah. That's not to say that others in the Jewish community do read it that way. And it's also not to disparage those in the community who read it that way. But in the way that I read the Torah and I understand the Torah, and how I understand the Torah to be the source of everything we do Jewishly, I don't read the Torah as an accurate account of exactly what it's describing occurred. And I also don't read it as the words of God as given to Moses at Mount Sinai. Okay? I read it as a story, a very old story, a story that is older than the Torah itself, that the oral traditions about the origin of the people of Israel. That's how I read the story. And so I think it's remarkable that we as a Jewish people have stories that are similar to the origins of Greek society and the origins of Roman society, right? Greek and Roman culture has mythology and classic stories, the Iliad, the Odyssey, that are all part of what it means to be Greek or what it means to be Roman. Okay, and you learn a lot about who Greeks and Romans are from their stories that they tell about the origin of their society. So we learn a lot also by reading the story, by reading the Torah, to understand who we are as a people. And so we see that we are just like everybody else. We're real people with real family dynamics that we can, in 2023, relate to, because we all know families that are messed up. We all know families that are like a Brady Bunch kind of families, and how these mixed families come together, right? It's sometimes for good, sometimes with a lot of mess. All right. And so we know about messed up families today, or I don't want to just disparage mixed families like that. I'm just saying we know about a whole variety of challenging family situations, and how lots of families try very hard to reconcile differences and bring about love and harmony, to some to better effect than others. And this is what the story of the history of the Jewish people is. A lot of Bible scholars today, a lot of scholars of ancient Israel, historians, try to figure out what the land of Israel looked like before King David, because we have tons of archaeological material and historical material from King David on, but we have very little, if no, historical record of before King David. So it's all hypothesis about what the land of Israel looked like and what the people of Israel looked like. There are some historians and Bible scholars who will argue that not all of the children of Israel ended up in Egypt, that some of those what became the tribes of Israel stayed in the land of Israel, and that other tribes who were in Egypt came and entered Israel. And what we read about in the book of Judges is that coming together of these variety of tribes, learning to trust each other to some degree or another, and to create a nation together. Okay, so that scholars think that that's how the people of Israel came to be, and why the rest of the Bible, Joshua, Judges, two books of Samuel, two books of Kings, describe in great detail how ununited the people of Israel are, and uncommitted to God the people of Israel were as well. Okay, so what we have in the Torah is the backstory that either existed in the minds of the people of Israel as they were coming together as a nation, or that they were creating to kind of teach long-lasting lessons about what the people of Israel should be. So what we find, let's turn to the Haftarah now and see this one lesson, what the rabbis from the Bible want to teach the average Jew in the pew on a Shabbat morning when the Torah is read, and we come to Shabbat services, what the bigger lesson is supposed to be about the people of Israel. That's the point of the Haftarah. Now, historically, I've said this before, historically, in the time of the Romans in the land of Israel, the Romans prohibited the public reading of the Torah. So the rabbis say, okay, we won't read the Torah in public, but we'll read other books of the Bible in public. The Romans didn't say we couldn't read any of the books of the prophets or the writings in public, so we'll do that. So on a Shabbat morning, in Roman times, instead of taking the Torah out of the ark, the rabbis selected sections from the prophets to read that would remind the people of what the Torah portion would have been, and would have and would have also be teaching further lesson, a lesson or enhancement of something from the Torah that the rabbis wanted to be sure that we understood. So in these 14 sentences in the prophet Ezekiel, beginning on page 291, 291 in Eitz Chaim. So whatever edition of Chumash you're using, go to the end of the Torah portion and you'll see the Haftarah there. So it's Ezekiel 37, verses 15 to 28. So here, so the Torah portion we just read, the reunification of Judah and Joseph and all of his brothers. So we have to understand that throughout biblical history, so there's King Saul as the first king of Israel. The dynasty began and ended with Saul and then shifted to David. So all the kings of Israel who are descended from King David. So King David's son Solomon takes over. So Solomon was David's youngest son. Solomon takes over. Solomon rules, and when Solomon dies, two sons take over, and they split the kingdom of Israel into two, into the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom becomes known as either Israel or Ephraim. Ephraim is the largest territory of the tribes in northern Israel, and so all of northern Israel is known by the largest tribe. Even though there are other tribes there too, the northern kingdom of Israel is either referred to by the prophets as either Israel or Ephraim. The southern kingdom of Israel is referred to as Judah, even though Shimon and Benjamin are kind of there too, and Shimon has really got swallowed up by Judah. So it's really just Judah and Benjamin who are there, but the southern kingdom is known by Judah. So it's Judah and Ephraim to represent the two kingdoms of Israel. Now, Ephraim's father is Joseph. So you can say that the two kingdoms of Israel are Joseph and Judah. The northern kingdom of Israel was exiled, was conquered, and the people exiled to Assyria in the 8th century BCE, never to be heard from again. So in Assyria, whenever Assyria conquered a new nation, they forced that people to become assimilated into Assyrian culture and society. They were not allowed to maintain their unique identities in the Assyrian Empire. You had to be Assyrian. So the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom of Israel gone for history. And 200 years later, the southern kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of Judah, was conquered and the people exiled to Babylonia. And thank God for the Babylonians to allow the Jews, or the people of Judah, the Jews, to maintain their unique identity. So because of the Babylonians, we're still around today. If we were all exiled to Assyria, there would be no more people of Israel. So thanks to the Babylonians for allowing us to maintain our identity, and then also thanks to the Persians who conquered the Babylonians 70 years later to allow us to go back to the land of Israel and rebuild the temple in Jerusalem there. Okay, so the prophets, especially Ezekiel, long for the day when Joseph and Judah will be reunited. So Joseph and Judah are reunited in our Torah portion. So that's the message that Ezekiel is talking about here. Jules, yeah, unmute yourself. What's your question? Do you have a question? Oh, no. Okay. So let's look at the Haftarah. Vayehi devar Adonai Eli lemor. And so the word of God came to me saying, Ve'ata ben Adam. So Ezekiel's unique. in referring to himself as the Son of Man. So, and you, the Son of Man. So that's unique in all of prophetic literature in the Bible. For either it's usually, I mean, that's just this reference, you, Son of Man. Here it's to be gender neutral. Our translation has it, you, O mortal. Okay. So person. So Ben Adam in Hebrew is not gender neutral, as we know. So Ben Adam is a person. And in modern Hebrew, you could say Ish or Isha. You could say Ben Adam, and a Ben Adam could even apply to a woman. Okay, so to translate it as "O mortal," it gets across the idea we're trying to come up with a gender-free translation of something of Hebrew that's not gender-free. V'ata ben Adam kach lecha eitz echad uchetov alav liYehuda v'livnei Yisrael chaveirav ulekach eitz echad uchetov alav liYosef eitz Ephraim v'chol beit Yisrael chaveirav. So God tells Ezekiel, Ben Adam, person, son of man, take a stick and write on it for Judah and the children and the people of Israel, his friends or associated with him, for Judah and for the people of Israel associated with him. So that's what you're writing on one stick. Take another stick and write on it for Joseph, the tree of Ephraim, and all of the house of Israel, his friends. Okay? So one stick is for Judah and associates, one stick for Joseph and associates. V'karav otam echad el echad, lecha le'etz echad, v'hayu la'achadim biyadecha. So I'm visualizing for you. Imagine a stick in both of my hands. And he says, bring them together, one to one, so that there would be one stick, even though there are two pieces in your hand. Okay, so you got two sticks, put them together like this, so it looks like you got one stick in your hand. So the stick for Judah, stick for Joseph, put together like this. Asher yomru elecha b'nei amcha lemor, halo tagid lanu ma'elelach. And when they will say to you, the people of your nation, saying, won't you tell us what these sticks are? So in other words, Ezekiel's supposed to walk around with these two sticks with the words on them, like he said, like God said. Walk around with your hands together with two pieces of wood so that people are going to be looking at you and say, hey, what are you doing, Ezekiel? Now, it's not usual. Now, Isaiah and Jeremiah and Hosea, the three prophets I can think of off the top of my head, who were told by God to do certain things, to dress a certain way, act a particular way, so to draw notice, so that people would be asking questions. What are you doing? Why are you wearing sackcloth? Why do you have ashes on your head? Hosea was even commanded to marry a prostitute, so to teach a lesson to the northern kingdom of Israel. So the prophets had to do things that would cause attention to be drawn to them. So Ezekiel doesn't do that so much. Here's one time, two sticks, put them together in your hand so it looks like you're carrying one stick, but you're walking around like this. So it's kind of weird to be walking around like that. People are going to be asking. So people knew Ezekiel. He was introduced. He's a Kohen. So he's one of the Kohen community in the exiled community in Babylonia. So now he's walking around like this. So people ask him, what are you doing? 19. Daber alehem ko amar Adonai Elohim. When Adonai is followed by Yud He Vav He, you always pronounce it, the Yud He Vav He as Elohim. Always. Sometimes the Yud He Vav He comes before the Adonai. It's rare, but it happens. So that if that happens, you would say Elohim Adonai. Here, in this case, you always say Adonai Elohim. Okay, so when you're reading it, when you're singing it, so in other words, if I were to sing this in the Haftorah tune, Koamar Adonai Elohim. Okay, that's one way to do that trup. So Adonai Elohim. So Koamar Adonai Elohim Hine Ani Lokeach et Eitz Yosef. You want to say hi to Saul? Sherry's just walking by with a delivery for the kitchen. So I'm in the library. Okay. Koamar Adonai Elohim Hine Ani Lokeach et Eitz Yosef asher biyad Ephraim v'shivtei Yisrael chaverav v'natati otam alav et Eitz Yehuda v'asitim le'etz echad v'hayu echad biyadi. So speak to them, saying, "This is what God said. Behold, I am taking the tree of Joseph, the piece of wood for Joseph, which is in the Ephraim hand, and the tribes of Israel associated with him, and I gave them to him, to the tree, the piece of wood with Judah, and I made them one piece of wood, and they were one in my hand. And the pieces of wood that you're going to write on them will be in your hands before their eyes. 21. V'daber alehem, ko amar Adonai Elohim, hine, ani lokeach, et b'nei Yisrael, mi bein hagoyim, asher halchu sham, v'kibatzti otam misaviv, v'heveti otam el admatam. And speak to them. This is what God said. I am going to take the people of Israel, that is, the people of Joseph, of all the tribes of the northern kingdom, Bnei Israel, from among the people that they went to, and I will gather them from all around, and I will bring them to their land. Va'asiti otam legoy echad ba'aretz beharei Yisrael, umelech echad yiheh lechulam lemelech, velo yiyu od lishne goyim, velo yechatzu od lishte mamlachot od. And I will make them one nation in the land, in the mountains of Israel, that is the mountains of northern Israel. And one king will be for everyone a king, and there won't be two people anymore. There won't be a northern kingdom and a southern kingdom anymore, and they won't be divided anymore into two kingdoms. 23, Velo yitamu od begilu lehem uveshikutsehem uvechol pishehem v'hoshati otam mikol moshvotehem asher chatu vahem v'tiharti otam v'hayu li la'am v'ani eheyeh lahem le'elohim. And they won't be impure anymore in their idolatries and in their shkuts. So that's Yiddish. With their abominations, with their idolatries and abominations and all their sins. And I will save them from their dwelling places where they have been sinning, and I will purify them, and they will be for me a nation, and I will be for them a God. So I'm going to restore the northern kingdom of Israel to its place in the north of Israel, and they'll be purified, and they will be returned to God. 24, Va'avdi David melech alehem, vero'eh echad yiheh lechulam, uvemishpatah yelechu, v'chukotah yishmeru va'asu otam. And my servant David will be king over them, and one shepherd will be for all, and one justice system. And my laws they will follow, and my laws they will observe, and everyone will do them. V'yashvu al haaretz asher natati la'avdi li'Yaakov, asher yashvu va'avotechem, v'yashvu aleha hema uvenehem, uvene venehem ad olam, v'David avdi nasi lahem le'olam. And they will settle in the land that I gave to my servant Jacob, that where your ancestors lived and where they dwelled, they and their sons and their grandchildren forever. And David, my servant, will be a prince for them forever. V'charati lahem brit shalom, brit olam yiyeh otam, unetatim v'herbeti otam, v'natati et mikdashi betocham leolam. And I will establish a covenant of peace, an everlasting covenant will be for them, and I will give them and make them great, and I will give my sanctuary in their midst forever. V'haya mishkani alehem, v'hayiti lahem le'elohim, v'hema yiyuli la'am. And my dwelling place will be in them, or my mishkan, my tabernacle will be over them, and I will be their God, and they will be a people to me. V'yadu hagoyim ki ani Adonai mekadesh et Yisrael b'hiyot mikdashi betocham leolam. And all the nations will know that I am God, the sanctifier of Israel, in that my sanctuary will be among them forever. Okay, so this is one of many visions, not just of Ezekiel, but also the later prophets as well, of what the latter chapters of Isaiah and other prophets in the Bible preach this idea. Not only will we, the people of Judah, the southern kingdom of Israel, be restored to the land of Israel, but also the northern kingdom, who we haven't seen in a couple hundred years, will be restored. So in other words, and that David, the descendant of David, will rule over us again. Okay, so that never came true. We had sons of Matityahu, who's Matityahu ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol, Mattathias, son of Yochanan, the high priest. So Kohen, so his son, like Judah Maccabee, Judah, one of 5 sons of Mattathias, became, he died in battle, but one of his brothers became the king of Israel, a Jewish king, the first time since the Jews were exiled to Babylonia. But they were not Davidic kings, they were Aaronide kings, if you want to say it that way, descended from Aaron, priests of Israel. So the vision is, we envision, so since the time of the Babylonian exile, prophets have been preaching, we're going to see the day when we will be returned to the land of Israel, the temple will be rebuilt, and the Messiah, the anointed one, the descendant of King David, will rule again on the throne there. So they did rebuild the temple, but the Davidic dynasty was not restored. So I've said this before too. If you look at the Gospels in the Christian Bible of the genealogy of Jesus, one of the ideas is, because the followers of Jesus were Jewish, so if they wanted to believe that Jesus was the Messiah, the anointed one, they had to prove that he was descended from King David. So one of the Gospels does that. It lists the whole line of Jesus through his father Joseph all the way back to a son of King David, to prove to the people that, yes, Jesus is the Messiah, because he's from the line of David. So that's all the people knew. They knew the Bible. They knew that for someone to be the Messiah, you had to claim that you're a descendant of King David. And if you're going to be the Messiah, you're going to miraculously bring back the people of the northern kingdom of Israel who have been exiled forever and assimilated into and gone from history. So that'll be the miracle of the Messianic time. Not only will it be a time of great peace and harmony in the world, which we are far from, and we have been far from for centuries, but that's something we pray for. And we pray that the lost tribes of Israel will be restored as well. So if we can pray for peace and harmony, we can also, which is would be a great miracle if that ever happened. Why not pray for the other miracle of the restoration of the entire Jewish people to the land of Israel? So 3 times a day, 365 days a year, we pray these very sentiments that Ezekiel has here. Okay, so the message of the Torah portion of the story of Joseph and Judah reuniting becomes the liturgical message, the biblical message of what of the people, a kind of a foundational idea that we believe in the Messiah. We believe that the entire nation of Israel will be restored someday. Okay. Any questions or comments? Yeah, Bob.
You said at the beginning that you take the story of Joseph and Jacob as sort of illustrative, but
Yes.
not historical.
Right.
But I always thought Joseph is really the way you explain how the Jews got to Egypt.
Right, but there's no proof that we were in Egypt. Yeah, that's a
Okay.
foundational story. I'm not. So I'm saying that. So Rabbi David Wolpe, when he was serving Sinai Temple in Los Angeles, made news when he preached on Passover, his Yizkor sermon, that the Exodus never happened. So that caused an uproar in the Jewish press at the time. It was what, 10, 15 years ago. But the entire message is, yes, it's a foundational element of who we are as a Jewish people. And when we say Kiddush every Friday night, we say a phrase, Zecher Litziat Mitzrayim, a reminder of the Exodus from Egypt. We were slaves, we couldn't observe Shabbos. Why do we observe Passover? The foundational story of our people is based on the Exodus. Okay, it's a foundational story. Does it need to be historically accurate? I would argue no. No, because, all right, if we ever find proof, okay, but I don't need the proof to corroborate what I know is an essential story and part and parcel of the psyche of what it means to be Jewish. That what it means is that we have a history in servitude, and that miraculously God brought us out of servitude. So that the story teaches us about the nature of God and how God works in the world around us. It teaches us about who we are as a people, that we are God's chosen people, to be led to Mount Sinai, to be given the Torah. So all these foundational, essential elements defining who we are as a people are what the story is for. But it doesn't matter to me, and it's not me, but it's other people within the conservative movement and non-Orthodox people who have taught that you don't need this to be history for us to say that why we're Jewish, right? Religion requires a leap of faith. It doesn't require a document that is kept in the archives to prove, there's the Declaration of Independence that gives us sanction, and here's the Constitution. Okay, so let's remember this is who we are as an American country. Okay, we don't need that, what's called in scholarship the Ur text. What's the original document that goes back from which all other documents from? We don't need the Ur text to prove that we're Jewish, or for people to say I'm Jewish because it's historically written here. No, because there's no artifact from which we go to say that's why we're Jewish. This proves that we exist. No, we can prove that we've been in Israel for 3,000 years. That we can definitely prove. So if anybody wants to argue with us that we're colonialists, no, we're not colonialists. We've been there for 3,000 years before anybody else got there who's around today. Okay, so we have archaeology to prove that we've been on the land, but we don't have archaeology to prove the origin of the Jewish people and the Jewish religion and Jewish civilization. That we don't have. That requires the leap of faith. Any other? Yeah, Lori.
Yeah, this a little bit different. It's about Joseph. I've always wondered, because this is an incredible story and it's so transformational
Yeah.
and played such a big role in our development as a people. But it seems like, although you're talking about the Haftorah, so that is, in part answers my question, but it seems like at the end of this story, you don't hear about Joseph anymore. You don't see him in our prayer book in any
Right.
context.
No, that's
And I
right.
was just wondering about that.
So we do see Joseph in the prayer book. He's referred to in the Psalms. Okay,
Mm.
Yosef, Yosef HaTzadik, or sometimes they add a hey to his name. The letter hey is never added to his name in the Torah. Like Abram becomes Abraham because a hey is added to his name, the letter A. So there's something about Joseph that later in the book of Psalms and then also among the rabbis that he's elevated to a position of a great religiosity. Now, why is that? So, we do know in the book of Exodus that that Moses goes and gets Joseph's bones to fulfill the promise that Joseph had his brothers make. Be sure that my bones will be taken and buried in the land of Israel. That's how Genesis ends. So in Exodus, Moses fulfills that promise by taking the bones out of Egypt. And then in the book of Joshua, the promise is fulfilled by Joshua and the people burying Joseph's bones. So yes, Joseph is still remembered. And yes, yeah, so it's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Okay, so you can argue, why not Joseph? Well, if you're going to do Joseph, you should do Judah also. And if you're going to do Joseph and Judah, then there's no end to how far you're going to go in the list of names. So you could argue that it's just a logistical thing. How many names can incorporate in a prayer? But I don't mean to demean that argument by saying Joseph is still revered in the rest of the Bible. And because the northern kingdom is referred to as Joseph, and also in rabbinic literature, Joseph is revered as well. So, yeah, and just as Judah is revered too among in rabbinic literature. So he's not necessarily forgotten. It all depends what we learn in the process of learning as a Jew. The more we learn, the more we see, these names are not forgotten. They're meant to be reminded and meant for us to keep learning from.
Thank you. That was really helpful.
Yeah, Bob.
I don't want to take you too far off field, but you talk in Ezekiel about who's going to take the northern and southern, and combined.
Yes. Right.
Has there been DNA testing,
right,
to figure out what happened to the northern?
Yeah, so there's a problem with that in that first there's been DNA testing on people who claim to be a Kohen. So there's some genetic marker that is common to all people who claim to be a Kohen that goes back to what could be to the time of Aaron, if Aaron existed. So geneticists are able to determine how long a genetic marker has been part of that DNA. So there isn't something else unique necessarily among the rest of the Jewish people. There are genetic diseases that are unique to the Jew, like Tay-Sachs and like the BRCA gene for breast cancer and ovarian cancer is commonly among Ashkenazi Jews, and there are some diseases that are common to Sephardi Jews. I'm not aware of a particular genetic marker that is unique to the Jewish people that no other people have, because we have assimilated with other people. We've maintained our Jewish identity, but we've assimilated with other people for a very, very long time. So Jews from Arab countries happen to look like other Arab people in the country they're living with because they've assimilated in it to some extent, and then the features, physical features, become common then to people who are living, right? So Jews from Poland and Russia might look like other Polish and Russian people because of the assimilation that way. So there isn't a unique genetic marker for the rest of the Jews. So we haven't been able to figure out those who claim to be descended from other tribes, like the B'nai Menashe of India, or the Ethiopian Jews who claim to be descended from the tribe of Dan. I don't think any genetic studies have been done to say that there's some unique marker to them. Barbara. Yeah.
Was the Cohen gene found in the northern in the Arab community?
So I don't know. Other people, so we don't, no, so are there Kohanim among the Ethiopians or the Indian Jews? That the study was done of their Kohanim to see if they had the genetic marker? I have no idea. All right. We have to stop here for today. Have a good rest of the day, everyone. And no class next Wednesday. During winter break, I'm going to have, I'll be on vacation next Wednesday. So we'll meet again the Wednesday after New Year's. So that's what, January 3rd, I think, 2 weeks from today. That'll be the next time we meet for Torah study. Take care, everybody. And
Thank you.
Happy New Year.